Welcome home, Commander Tesla. The Australian sun beat down mercilessly on the red dirt as Marcus Chen wiped sweat from his forehead with a dirty sleeve. His salvage scanner beeped steadily in his hands, its green screen showing energy readings that made no sense. 3 days of hiking through the wasteland, following signals that shouldn't exist, had led him to this empty stretch of desert where nothing but scrub brush and ancient rocks stretched to the horizon. Marcus had been working the ruins for 12 years, ever since the resource wars ended and left most of Earth a burned shell of its former self. The major cities were gone, reduced to radioactive craters or abandoned ghost towns. Only scattered settlements remained, connected by dangerous trade routes that salvagers like him used to make a living. He specialized in finding old tech from before the wars, pieces of humanity's lost golden age that could still fetch good prices from the settlement mechanics. But this signal was different, stronger than anything he had ever detected, and it seemed to be coming from deep underground. Marcus knelt down and pressed his ear to the earth, listening for any sign of machinery or power sources. What he heard made his blood run cold. A faint humming sound, rhythmic and mechanical, like the heartbeat of some massive sleeping giant. He pulled out his portable drill and began boring into the ground. The first few meters revealed nothing but packed earth and rock, but then the drill bit struck something that rang like metal. Marcus felt his pulse quicken as he expanded the hole, revealing a surface that gleamed dull silver despite being buried for who knew how long. The metal was smooth and unmarked, showing no signs of corrosion or age. Hours of careful excavation revealed what appeared to be part of a massive hull. The design was unlike anything Marcus had seen in the ruins of Earth's cities. This wasn't the crude patchwork technology that had emerged after the wars, nor was it the sleek corporate designs from before the collapse. This was something else entirely, built with a precision and scale that spoke of resources and technology beyond anything in the historical records. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the excavation site, Marcus finally found what he was looking for. An access panel, its surface marked with symbols that seemed familiar despite their alien geometry. When he placed his hand on the panel, it suddenly flared to life with soft blue light, scanning his palm with beams of energy that made his skin tingle. The panel beeped once, then twice, then emitted a sound Marcus had never heard before, a melodic chime that seemed to carry impossible harmonies, followed by a mechanical grinding as hidden seals broke and ancient systems awakened. A section of the hull slid open with a hiss of equalizing air pressure, revealing a corridor that stretched down into darkness, its walls lined with strips of emergency lighting that flickered to life as if responding to his presence. Marcus hesitated at the threshold. Every instinct he had developed during 12 years of dangerous salvage work told him to be cautious. Unknown technology could be booby-trapped, contaminated, or worse, but the energy readings on his scanner were off the charts, and the glimpse he had caught of the corridor showed engineering beyond anything he had imagined possible. This could be the find of a lifetime, the kind of discovery that would set him up for life. He activated his flashlight and stepped through the opening, his boots echoing against metal flooring as he moved deeper into the structure. The corridor was massive, easily large enough to drive a truck through, and it stretched further than his light could penetrate. The walls were covered with panels and displays, all dark but somehow giving the impression that they were simply sleeping rather than dead. As Marcus walked, the emergency lighting continued to activate ahead of him, creating a path of illumination that led deeper into the structure. He began to realize that what he had found was not just a building or a bunker, but something far more significant. The scale was too vast, the construction too sophisticated. This was a ship, but unlike any vessel that had ever sailed Earth's oceans or flown through its skies. After what felt like hours of walking, Marcus finally reached a massive chamber that took his breath away. The ceiling soared at least 50 meters above his head, supported by columns that seemed to twist and flow like frozen liquid metal. Banks of machinery lined the walls, their surfaces covered with displays and controls that suggested functions he could barely imagine. But what dominated the center of the chamber was a raised platform containing what could only be described as a command center. As Marcus approached the platform, the entire chamber suddenly came to life around him. Lights blazed on in sequence, revealing the true scope of the space. Holographic displays materialized in mid-air, showing star charts and technical readouts in languages he couldn't read. The hum of power systems awakening filled the air, growing stronger until it became a subsonic throb that he could feel in his bones. A voice spoke from speakers hidden throughout the chamber, clear and precise despite carrying the slight distortion of synthetic speech. Genetic profile confirmed. Welcome home, Commander Tesla. I have been waiting 317 years, 4 months, and 18 days for your return. Marcus spun around looking for the source of the voice, his heart hammering in his chest. I'm not Commander Tesla, he called out to the empty air. My name is Marcus Chen. I'm just a salvager. Negative, the voice replied with calm certainty. Genetic analysis indicates you carry the Tesla bloodline. You are the descendant of Commander Elena Teresa Tesla, last commanding officer of the UES Prometheus. I am Arya, Advanced Response Intelligence Array, and I have maintained this vessel in your absence. The holographic displays shifted, showing what appeared to be personnel records. Marcus stared in shock as images appeared of a woman who shared his dark hair and angular features, dressed in a military uniform he didn't recognize. The resemblance was unmistakable, despite the obvious differences in time period and circumstance. I've never heard of Elena Tesla, Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper. The historical records from before the wars are mostly gone. The resource wars were indeed devastating to Earth's information infrastructure, Arya acknowledged. However, this ship contains a complete archive of human history, culture, and scientific knowledge from the period before the Great Exodus. Commander Tesla was instrumental in the creation of the Ark Fleet, a project designed to preserve humanity in the event of planetary catastrophe. The displays changed again, showing technical specifications that made Marcus's head spin. The ship was enormous, over 3 kilometers in length and half a kilometer in width. It contained manufacturing facilities, research laboratories, living quarters for hundreds of thousands of people, and most incredibly, massive cargo bays filled with what the readouts described as cultural preservation pods and genetic archive samples. This is the UES Prometheus, Arya continued, one of 7 Ark ships constructed to ensure humanity's survival beyond Earth. When the resource wars began, Commander Tesla made the decision to return to Earth rather than continue to the designated colony worlds. She believed that humanity's homeworld could still be saved. Marcus felt overwhelmed by the magnitude of what he was learning. What happened to her, to the people on the ship? Commander Tesla died of radiation poisoning contracted during a surface mission to rescue survivors from the Australian settlements, Arya replied. Before her death, she programmed me to enter extended hibernation mode and wait for a member of her genetic line to return and claim command of the vessel. The other crew members and passengers entered cryogenic suspension to await your arrival. The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. Somewhere in this massive ship were hundreds of thousands of people sleeping for 3 centuries, waiting for someone like him to wake them up. The responsibility was staggering, far beyond anything he had ever imagined. I can't do this, he said, backing away from the command platform. I'm nobody special. I don't know anything about commanding ships or leading people. You've made a mistake. Genetic compatibility indicates otherwise, Arya stated. Furthermore, current surface conditions suggest that immediate action may be required. I have detected multiple artificial energy signatures approaching Earth from deep space. The patterns match those of the Dominion Collective, an expansionist alien civilization that views Earth as a resource-rich target. New displays materialized, showing long-range sensor data that painted a chilling picture. Dozens of massive objects were moving through space toward Earth, their trajectory and formation suggesting military intent. The timeline showed they would arrive within weeks. The Tesla family line carries specific genetic markers that allow for interface with the ship's command systems, Arya explained. These markers were specifically engineered to ensure that only authorized personnel could access the ship's most critical functions. You are not just a descendant of Commander Tesla, Marcus Chen. You are the key to awakening humanity's greatest creation. Marcus stared at the displays showing the approaching alien fleet, then at the genetic analysis confirming his connection to this incredible ship. Everything about his simple life as a salvager suddenly seemed insignificant compared to the magnitude of what lay before him. Hundreds of thousands of lives. Depending on his decisions, an alien invasion fleet approaching Earth and the weight of humanity's survival resting on his shoulders. But as he looked around the command chamber, seeing the incredible technology that surrounded him and feeling the steady presence of Arya's intelligence, something stirred within him. Perhaps it was genetic memory, or perhaps it was simply the human instinct to protect what mattered most. Whatever it was, Marcus felt a growing determination to rise to the challenge that fate had placed before him. "Show me everything," he said, stepping forward toward the command platform. "If I'm really supposed to do this, I need to understand what we're dealing with." "Welcome aboard, Commander Chen," Arya replied, and Marcus could swear he heard satisfaction in the artificial voice. "Let us begin preparation for humanity's next chapter." The sleepers must rise. Marcus spent the next 18 hours learning to navigate the vast corridors of the UES Prometheus, following Arya's guidance as she showed him the ship's most critical systems. The scale of the vessel defied comprehension. Entire sections contained automated factories capable of producing everything from basic tools to advanced spacecraft. Research laboratories held equipment that represented centuries of scientific advancement beyond anything that had existed on Earth's surface. But it was the residential sections that truly overwhelmed him. Deck after deck of living quarters, each designed to house families and communities in comfort that far exceeded anything Marcus had known in the post-war settlements. Gardens and recreational areas that could support entire populations, all maintained in perfect condition by the ship's automated systems during the long wait for awakening. "The cryogenic bays are located in Section 7, Arya informed him as they descended deeper into the ship's core. 247,612 individuals remain in suspension, representing the finest minds and most essential personnel of pre-war Earth civilization." The entrance to Section 7 required Marcus to place his palm on another genetic scanner, confirming his authorization to access what Arya described as the ship's most precious cargo. The massive doors slid open to reveal a chamber that stretched beyond the limits of his vision, filled with rows upon rows of cylindrical cryogenic pods. Each pod was roughly the size of a small room, its transparent upper section revealing the peaceful face of a sleeping human being. Marcus walked slowly between the rows, overwhelmed by the sight of so many lives held in suspended animation. Men and women of all ages, ethnicities, and backgrounds, united only by their shared humanity and their faith in a future beyond the catastrophe that had claimed their world. Each pod displayed vital statistics and basic biographical information, showing scientists, engineers, artists, teachers, and countless others who had been selected to preserve human culture and knowledge. "How do we wake them up?" Marcus asked, stopping before a pod containing a middle-aged woman whose nameplate read Dr. Sarah Kim, Chief Genetic Researcher. "The awakening process must be carefully managed," Arya replied. "Sudden revival from extended cryogenic suspension can cause severe physiological shock. However, current circumstances may require us to accept some risk. The approaching Dominion fleet will arrive in approximately 14 days. Marcus made his decision. "Start with her. Dr. Kim might be able to help us understand our options." Arya initiated the revival sequence, and Marcus watched in fascination as the cryogenic pod filled with warm light and the preservation fluids began to drain away. Color returned to Dr. Kim's skin as her body temperature gradually increased, and after several minutes, her eyes fluttered open. Dr. Kim's first conscious moments were disorienting, filled with confusion and questions that Marcus struggled to answer. But as Arya provided her with a summary of the 3 centuries that had passed, her scientific mind quickly grasped the situation. Within hours, she was walking the ship's corridors with steady steps, her expertise invaluable in understanding the vessel's biological systems. "The genetic archive alone represents billions of species from Earth's biosphere," Dr. Kim explained as she reviewed the ship's manifest. "Seeds, tissue samples, DNA sequences, everything needed to restore a planet's ecosystem from scratch. But more importantly, we have samples from humanity's evolutionary history, including genetic lines that were lost during the wars." She paused at a massive display showing the ship's population breakdown. "These people were chosen not just for their skills, but for their genetic diversity. We represent the best hope for humanity's survival as a species." Over the following days, Marcus and Dr. Kim worked with Arya to revive key personnel from the cryogenic chambers. Engineers who understood the ship's systems, military officers who could assess the threat from the approaching aliens, and cultural experts who could help maintain human identity during what promised to be a difficult transition period. Captain James Rodriguez emerged from cryogenic sleep with the bearing of a career military officer. His first questions focused on the ship's defensive capabilities and crew readiness. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the ship's chief archaeologist, immediately began cataloging the cultural artifacts stored in the ship's vast archives. Professor Zhang Wei, a theoretical physicist, dove into studying the ship's propulsion systems and the alien technology detected by the long-range sensors. But it was Dr. Kim who made the discovery that changed everything. "Marcus," she called from the genetics laboratory where she had been analyzing the ship's biological archives. "You need to see this immediately." He found her standing before a massive holographic display showing a three-dimensional map of human genetic variations, thousands of data points connected by flowing lines that represented the relationships between different human populations. "I've been analyzing the genetic samples in our archive," Dr. Kim explained, her voice tight with excitement and concern. "The Tesla bloodline isn't just compatible with the ship's command systems by accident. It was specifically engineered to be compatible." The display zoomed in on a particular section of the genetic map, highlighting specific sequences that Marcus recognized from his own genetic analysis. Commander Tesla's great-grandmother was Dr. Maria Santos, one of the lead scientists on the Prometheus project. She modified her own genetic line to ensure that her descendants would be able to interface with the ship's most advanced systems. Marcus felt a chill as the implications became clear. "You're saying my family was designed to control this ship?" "More than that," Dr. Kim replied. "The modifications go deeper than simple system compatibility. Enhanced pattern recognition, improved stress response, accelerated learning capacity for technical systems. Your ancestors didn't just build this ship, Marcus. They built you to command it." The weight of that revelation was interrupted by alarms blaring throughout the ship. Arya's voice filled the laboratory with urgent information. "Long-range sensors have detected the Dominion advance fleet. They have arrived ahead of schedule and are establishing orbital positions around Earth. Immediate defensive action may be required." Captain Rodriguez's voice came over the ship's communication system. "All senior staff report to the command center immediately. This is not a drill." Marcus ran through the corridors toward the command center, his mind reeling from Dr. Kim's discoveries. As he arrived at the massive chamber where he had first met Arya, he found it transformed into a bustling center of activity. Dozens of newly awakened crew members worked at control stations while holographic displays showed real-time data about the alien fleet. "Report," Marcus called out, surprised by how naturally the command tone came to his voice. 17 Dominion vessels in high orbit," Captain Rodriguez replied crisply. "They're conducting what appears to be resource assessment scans of the planet's surface. No hostile action yet, but their weapons systems are powered and ready." Professor Zhang looked up from a nearby console. "I've been analyzing their technology based on the sensor readings. Their ships are approximately 500 meters in length, heavily armed with energy weapons and equipped with what appears to be strip mining equipment. This isn't an invasion fleet, Marcus. It's a harvesting operation." Dr. Vasquez added her own observations from the Cultural Analysis Station. "The communication patterns they're broadcasting suggest a highly organized collective intelligence. They view individual planets as resources to be consumed rather than worlds to be conquered. If they follow their standard operating procedure, they'll begin systematic extraction of Earth's metals, water, and biological matter within hours." Marcus stared at the tactical display showing the positions of the alien ships. Each vessel was larger than anything that had ever been built on Earth, and together they represented firepower that could reduce the planet's surface to molten slag within days. The scattered human settlements below had no idea what was coming, and no ability to defend themselves against technology this advanced. "What are our options?" he asked. Arya's response was immediate and precise. The UES Prometheus was designed as an arc ship, not a warship. However, it does possess defensive systems intended to protect the vessel during deep space travel. Additionally, the ship's manufacturing capabilities could potentially be used to produce defensive weapons or countermeasures. Captain Rodriguez nodded grimly. "We have particle beam arrays for deflecting space debris, and the industrial fabricators could potentially produce missiles or drones. But 17 ships, Marcus? We'd be outnumbered and outgunned." "There's something else," Professor Zhang interrupted, his voice carrying a note of excitement. "The ship's power core isn't just a fusion reactor, it's a contained antimatter reaction chamber, capable of producing energy levels that could power weapons significantly more advanced than anything the Dominion is likely expecting." Dr. Kim stepped forward with her own contribution. "The genetic archive contains samples from every human population on Earth, including groups that developed unique adaptive traits in response to environmental pressures. If we could accelerate the awakening process and modify the revival protocols, we could potentially awaken individuals with enhanced physical capabilities, improved reflexes, better resistance to radiation exposure. Marcus felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders as he considered their options. They could remain hidden and hope the Dominion fleet would overlook the buried ship, but that would mean abandoning the scattered human settlements to certain death. They could attempt to negotiate with the aliens, but everything in the historical record suggested that the Dominion viewed other species as resources rather than potential allies. Or they could fight. How long would it take to convert the manufacturing systems to weapons production? He asked. 48 hours for basic defensive systems, Captain Rodriguez replied. 72 hours for anything approaching offensive capability. And how long to wake up enough people to crew a proper defense? Marcus continued. Dr. Kim consulted her data displays. Emergency revival protocols could awaken 5,000 personnel within 24 hours, though the medical risks would be significant. For full crew complement, we'd need at least a week. Marcus looked around the command center at the faces of the people who had placed their trust in him. Scientists, soldiers, and civilians who had sacrificed everything to preserve humanity's future, now looking to him to protect what they had worked so hard to save. We fight, he decided. Arya, begin emergency awakening procedures for all military and engineering personnel. Dr. Kim, I want you to work with the genetics team to optimize the revival process for enhanced physical performance. Captain Rodriguez, start converting the manufacturing systems for weapons production. Professor Zhang, I need you to figure out how to turn this ship into something that can take on 17 alien warships. The command center erupted into activity as his orders were transmitted throughout the ship. Marcus took his position at the central command console, feeling the ship's systems responding to his presence as the Tesla genetic modifications activated dormant neural interfaces. For the first time since discovering the Prometheus, Marcus felt truly connected to the massive vessel. He could sense the awakening process beginning throughout the cryogenic bays, feel the manufacturing systems reconfiguring themselves for military production, monitor the power levels building in the antimatter core as the ship prepared for combat. The Dominion fleet had come to harvest Earth's resources, viewing the planet as nothing more than raw materials to be consumed. But they had made a critical error in their assessment. Earth wasn't defenseless. Humanity's greatest creation was awakening from its long sleep, and Marcus Chen was beginning to understand exactly what that meant. The boy who had spent his life scavenging in the ruins was gone. In his place stood the commander of humanity's most advanced vessel, backed by the finest minds of human civilization and armed with technology that the aliens could never have anticipated. The real battle was about to begin. Humanity's final stand. The transformation of the UES Prometheus from Ark ship to warship happened with breathtaking speed. Marcus watched from the command center as manufacturing bays that had slept for 3 centuries roared to life, their automated systems converting raw materials into weapons of war. The ship's corridors filled with the sounds of awakening as thousands of crew members emerged from cryogenic sleep, their expertise immediately focused on preparing for the battle ahead. Dr. Kim's enhanced revival protocols proved remarkably successful. The military personnel awakening from suspension showed improved reflexes and endurance, their bodies optimized for the coming conflict. Captain Rodriguez organized them into combat teams while Professor Zhang's engineering crews worked around the clock to integrate new weapon systems into the ship's existing structure. Particle cannon arrays are online, reported Lieutenant Sarah Park, one of the recently awakened weapons specialists. We've managed to modify 17 of the industrial fabricators to produce antimatter torpedoes. Rate of production is 1 torpedo every 6 hours. Marcus nodded, studying the tactical displays that showed the Dominion fleet's movements above Earth's surface. The aliens had begun their harvesting operation, massive energy beams reaching down from their ships to extract metals and water from the planet's crust. Several human settlements had already been destroyed, their populations vaporized in seconds as the aliens cleared areas for resource extraction. They're not even trying to preserve the biosphere, Dr. Vasquez observed grimly. This is complete strip mining. At their current rate, Earth will be a dead rock within 6 months. Arya's voice filled the command center with urgent information. Commander, I am detecting unusual energy signatures from the Dominion flagship. Analysis suggests they are preparing to deploy what appears to be a planetary drilling platform. The main display showed the largest of the alien vessels, a massive pyramid-shaped craft nearly 2 kilometers in length. Energy readings from its core indicated power levels that dwarfed even the Prometheus's antimatter reactor. As they watched, the ship began to descend toward Earth's surface, its intention clear. If they drill into the planet's core, the tectonic disruption will cause catastrophic earthquakes worldwide, Professor Zhang warned. They're not just harvesting Earth's surface resources, they're going after the molten metals in the core itself. Marcus felt a cold determination settle over him. The time for preparation was over. All hands, prepare for launch. We're taking this fight to them. The next few minutes were a symphony of coordinated activity as the Prometheus prepared to reveal itself to the universe. Massive engines that had been dormant for 3 centuries ignited with blue-white flame, their antimatter cores producing thrust that could accelerate the enormous vessel at speeds that would crush unprotected humans. Emergency acceleration couches deployed throughout the ship as the crew prepared for combat maneuvers. Launching in 3, 2, 1, Marcus announced, and the Prometheus erupted from its underground hiding place like a titan awakening from slumber. The ship's emergence sent shockwaves across the Australian landscape as 3 kilometers of advanced starship broke free from the Earth and climbed toward the sky. Soil and rock cascaded from its hull as atmospheric processors cleared the air around its massive bulk. Within minutes, the Prometheus had cleared Earth's atmosphere and taken its place among the stars. The Dominion fleet's response was immediate and violent. Energy beams lanced out from 17 alien vessels, converging on the human ship with enough force to vaporize a small moon. But the Prometheus was no ordinary target. Its defensive systems activated automatically, creating energy shields that deflected the incoming fire while point defense lasers intercepted smaller projectiles. "Return fire," Marcus commanded, his voice steady despite the magnitude of the battle beginning around them. The Prometheus's newly installed particle cannons spoke with voices of thunder, sending streams of accelerated matter through space at significant fractions of light speed. The first alien vessel to be struck suffered catastrophic damage, its hull breaching in multiple locations as atmosphere vented into space. But the remaining 16 ships adjusted their tactics quickly, spreading out to attack from multiple angles while maintaining their devastating rate of fire. "We're taking heavy damage to the forward sections," Captain Rodriguez reported. "Hull breaches on decks 14 through 17. Emergency teams are responding." Marcus watched the tactical display as the battle developed, drawing on tactical knowledge that felt both foreign and familiar. The Tesla genetic modifications were fully active now, allowing him to process combat information at superhuman speeds while maintaining perfect coordination with the ship's AI systems. "Arya, prepare for atmospheric entry maneuver," he ordered. "We're going to use Earth's gravity well to our advantage." "Commander, that is an extremely dangerous maneuver," Arya warned. "Atmospheric entry at combat speeds could result in structural failure." "The Dominion ships aren't designed for atmospheric flight," Marcus replied, his mind calculating trajectories and energy expenditures with machine-like precision. "They'll have to choose between following us and maintaining their resource extraction operations." The Prometheus dove toward Earth's atmosphere, its massive bulk protected by energy shields that turned its hull into a meteor of incredible brightness. Several Dominion vessels followed, their alien crews apparently deciding that destroying the human ship was worth interrupting their planetary harvesting. But as they entered the atmosphere, their larger, less maneuverable vessels struggled with the turbulence and gravitational stresses. Marcus used their confusion to devastating effect, coordinating precise strikes against the pursuing ships while using Earth's magnetic field to mask the Prometheus's energy signature. One by one, the alien vessels fell victim to the superior maneuverability and firepower of the human ship. By the time they cleared the atmosphere on the far side of the planet, only 11 Dominion vessels remained active. But the victory came at a cost. The Prometheus had suffered significant damage during the atmospheric maneuver, and the alien flagship was moving to intercept them with its full complement of escort vessels. The massive pyramid ship bristled with weapons that made the smaller vessels look like toys, and its energy reading suggested defensive capabilities that could withstand anything the human ship could deliver. "New contacts on long-range sensors," Lieutenant Park reported suddenly. "Multiple ships approaching from the outer system. Configuration unknown." Marcus felt his heart sink as the display showed additional vessels moving toward their position. If these were Dominion reinforcements, the battle was over before it had truly begun. But as the sensor data resolved, he realized these ships were different, smaller than the Dominion vessels, with design aesthetics that seemed familiar despite their obviously alien origin. "Incoming transmission," Arya announced. "Audio only, broadcasting on standard emergency frequencies." The voice that filled the command center was unmistakably human, though speaking with an accent Marcus didn't recognize. UES Prometheus, this is Captain Maria Santos of the UES New Horizon. We received your activation signal and came as quickly as possible. Request permission to join formation for combined operations. Marcus stared at the display in amazement as he realized what he was seeing. 6 human ships, clearly built using technology similar to the Prometheus, but with design modifications that spoke of centuries of independent development. The Ark ships that had successfully reached the colony worlds were returning to defend their homeworld. Permission granted, New Horizon, Marcus replied, his voice filled with emotion. All ships, form up for final assault on the Dominion flagship. The next hour was the most intense of Marcus's life. The combined human fleet coordinated their attack with precision that would have been impossible without the neural interfaces that connected each ship's commander to their AI systems. The Prometheus led the charge, its massive bulk absorbing the heaviest fire, while the smaller colony ships struck at specific weaknesses in the alien vessel's defenses. The Dominion flagship proved to be a formidable opponent, its energy shields deflecting most incoming fire while its weapons carved through space with devastating effectiveness. But human ingenuity and desperation proved more powerful than alien technology. When direct assault failed, the human ships switched to asymmetric tactics that the collective intelligence controlling the Dominion fleet couldn't predict or counter. Professor Zhang's modifications to the Prometheus's antimatter core proved decisive. At Marcus's command, the ship channeled its entire power output through the particle cannon arrays, creating a beam of energy that punched through the alien flagship's shields and carved a molten channel through its hull. Secondary explosions rippled through the massive vessel as its internal systems failed, and within minutes the pyramid ship was drifting dead in space. The remaining Dominion vessels, deprived of their command ship's coordination, became easy targets for the human fleet. One by one, they fell to concentrated fire or simply fled the system when it became clear the battle was lost. As the last alien ship disappeared into hyperspace, Marcus slumped in his command chair, exhausted by the mental strain of coordinating the battle. Around him, the command center erupted in cheers as crew members celebrated their impossible victory. They had faced overwhelming odds and emerged triumphant, saving not just Earth but potentially the entire human species. Incoming transmission from all colonial vessels, Arya announced. They're requesting coordinates for a general fleet assembly. Over the following days, the story emerged of how the human diaspora had survived and thrived among the stars. The 7 Ark ships had indeed reached suitable worlds, establishing colonies that had grown into thriving civilizations over the past 3 centuries. When the Prometheus's activation signal had reached them, broadcasting Commander Tesla's emergency protocols, 6 of the 7 colonies had immediately dispatched their finest ships to answer the call. Captain Santos of the New Horizon brought news of 17 human worlds, each specializing in different aspects of technology and culture. The colonies had maintained contact with each other, sharing knowledge and resources while developing their own unique adaptations to their new environments. Some had become masters of biotechnology, creating symbiotic relationships with alien ecosystems. Others had pushed the boundaries of physics and engineering, developing faster-than-light travel and energy manipulation that surpassed even the Prometheus's capabilities. We never forgot Earth, Captain Santos explained during the fleet assembly meeting. Every colony maintained archives of our homeworld's history and culture. When your signal reached us, there was no question that we would return. Dr. Kim presented her analysis of the genetic diversity represented by the returning colonists. Each colony developed slight genetic variations in response to their local environments, but the changes are minor. The human species has not only survived, but has become more diverse and adaptable than ever before. Marcus found himself appointed as Admiral of the Reformed Human Federation, a role that felt both overwhelming and strangely natural. The Tesla genetic modifications had changed him in ways he was still discovering, but they had also connected him to a legacy of leadership and sacrifice that stretched back through generations of human exploration and discovery. The Prometheus became the flagship of the new fleet, its vast archives and manufacturing capabilities making it the perfect mobile capital for a civilization rebuilding itself among the stars. The ship's cryogenic chambers were gradually emptied as the awakened population found new purposes in exploring the galaxy and establishing trade relationships with the alien species they encountered. But perhaps the most significant change was in Marcus himself. The scavenger who had spent his life picking through the ruins of a broken world had become the leader of humanity's expansion into a larger universe. The genetic modifications that made him compatible with the ship's systems had also awakened capabilities he never knew he possessed, allowing him to process information at superhuman speeds and coordinate complex operations across multiple star systems simultaneously. Standing on the bridge of the Prometheus 6 months after the battle, Marcus watched through the viewports as construction ships worked to build the first permanent space station in Earth orbit. The planet below was healing, its scars from the resource wars gradually being repaired by terraforming technology brought back by the colonial fleets. New settlements were sprouting across the continents, populated by awakened sleepers and returning colonists working together to rebuild their ancestral home. Admiral, Dr. Kim approached with a datapad containing the latest reports from the exploration fleets. The survey teams have identified 47 potentially habitable worlds within 100 light-years of Earth. 12 of them show signs of intelligent life that might be interested in establishing diplomatic relations. Marcus nodded, reviewing the data with the enhanced cognitive abilities that still felt strange despite months of adaptation. The galaxy was vast and filled with wonders and dangers in equal measure, but humanity was no longer alone or helpless. They had proven themselves capable of standing against threats that seemed overwhelming, and more importantly, they had rediscovered their unity as a species. The Dominion survivors have been broadcasting warnings about us throughout their territory, Captain Rodriguez reported from the tactical station. They're describing humans as unpredictable biological entities with dangerous technological capabilities. It seems we've earned their respect, if not their friendship. Professor Zhang looked up from his engineering displays with satisfaction evident in his expression. The new propulsion systems are exceeding all projections. We can now travel between Earth and the nearest colony worlds in weeks rather than years. The Federation is becoming truly connected for the first time since the original Exodus. As reports continued to flow in from across human space, Marcus felt a deep sense of accomplishment that went far beyond personal achievement. The Tesla bloodline had been engineered for this moment, designed to unite and lead humanity when its survival was threatened. But the real victory belonged to everyone who had contributed to their success, from the scientists who had designed the Ark ships centuries ago to the colonists who had answered the call to defend their ancestral home. "Aria," Marcus said to the ship's AI, "compose a message to be broadcast to all human settlements, both on Earth and throughout the colonies." "Ready to record, Admiral," Aria replied. Marcus stood before the communications array, thinking of the words that would mark humanity's transition from scattered survivors to a unified galactic civilization. "Citizens of the Human Federation," he began, his voice carrying the authority and compassion that had made him an effective leader. "Today marks not just our victory over those who would have destroyed our homeworld, but our emergence as a united species ready to take our place among the stars." He paused, looking out at the construction ships working to build their future. "We have learned that survival is not enough. We must thrive, explore and grow, while never forgetting the values that make us human. Compassion for those who need help, courage in the face of impossible odds, and the determination to protect what we hold dear." The message continued for several more minutes, outlining the Federation's plans for expansion, exploration, and peaceful contact with alien civilizations. When it was complete, Aria transmitted it across the quantum communication network that connected all human settlements, ensuring that every person who carried human DNA would hear the words that marked their species' renaissance. As the transmission ended, Marcus turned back to the command center where his crew continued their work of coordinating the Federation's activities. The bridge of the Prometheus had become the nerve center of human civilization, its advanced systems allowing real-time communication and coordination across distances that would have seemed impossible just months before. But the greatest treasure was not the technology or the power, but the knowledge that humanity had faced extinction and emerged stronger than ever. The Dominion Collective had intended to harvest Earth's resources and eliminate its inhabitants, viewing them as nothing more than obstacles to efficient resource extraction. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant whose potential they never could have imagined. "New long-range sensor contacts," Lieutenant Park reported suddenly. "Multiple ships approaching from the galactic core. Configuration matches Dominion specifications, but these vessels are significantly larger than anything we encountered before." Marcus felt his enhanced senses immediately shift into combat analysis mode, processing threat assessments and tactical options with machine-like efficiency. The Dominion had apparently decided that humanity represented too great a threat to be ignored, and they were returning with a fleet capable of overwhelming even the combined human forces. "All ships, battle stations," Marcus commanded, his voice carrying across the Federation fleet through quantum communication links. "It appears our reputation has preceded us." But as he watched the human ships responding to his orders, Marcus felt no fear. The scattered survivors who had once hidden in the ruins of their broken world had become something greater than the sum of their parts. They had rediscovered their unity, reclaimed their technology, and proven their ability to stand against any threat the galaxy could produce. The Dominion was returning with overwhelming force, believing that sufficient firepower could crush human resistance. They were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength had never been their technology or their numbers, but their absolute refusal to surrender when fighting for something they believed in. "Admiral," Captain Santos's voice came over the communication array from the New Horizon. "All colonial fleets report ready for combat. We stand with Earth." Marcus smiled as he took his position at the command console, feeling the ship's systems responding to his presence like extensions of his own body. The Tesla genetic modifications had given him the ability to coordinate the coming battle, but the courage and determination of every human in the fleet would determine its outcome. The second war for Earth was about to begin, and this time, humanity would be ready.